put on our jerseys, went downtown, found a bar, watched the last 10 minutes of the game.
Watched the game, had some drinks with some locals.
Started a fight because we were angry and went home.
It was good. I mean, it was fun. Obviously, it wasn't as good as going to the game.
Hey guys, welcome to Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. We are in Barcelona, Spain. Such a cool city. Hence the jersey over here, you know. We got a funny story about us going to, or attempting to go to a FC Barcelona game. We're here, we're doing business. This is an internal episode. I have Chris Hartswick here, who's my business partner, and we're talking about just our experiences and going over everything, and specifically about financing for a startup company and then taking it from startup to growth, and what we've done to position ourselves to be in a good place financially to support our growth, working with our partners, working with our vendors. Really exciting. We talk about a bunch of other stuff. We visited a trade show, a European trade show called ISE, which is the Integrated Systems Europe show. Basically, it is a show for all this cool technology when it comes to controls, controlling your home, lighting, audio, visual. We're working with a really big company based out of the UK to do facade lighting back home. And just really, really strong partner, great products. So we spent a lot of time with them, visited a bunch of job sites that we're working on, and actually some new client meetings. So really fun discussion, good stuff packed in. So stay tuned. Make sure, please, you subscribe to all the channels on YouTube, on Spotify and Apple, wherever you listen. Please comment if you'd like to hear more stuff, things that resonate with you, and just share when you can.
My name is George Stroumboulis, and I'm extremely passionate about traveling the world, meeting new people, and learning about new businesses. Join me as I sit down with other entrepreneurs to learn about their journeys. This episode of Invigorate Your Business starts now.
So we're in Barcelona, Spain.
Yes, we are.
We've been traveling. You been here before?
No.
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 That you remember?
Layovers in the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Counts? Doesn't count.
No, it doesn't count.
Right? Like if that counted, yeah, I don't think so. If you haven't been in the town. So we got here last night.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're here. It's early in the morning. We got a lot of meetings, actually. Right? We're going to go to 2 job sites that have our product installed. We're going to go to a massive trade show.
Yep.
We'll talk about that for a bit. And we're meeting a huge partner that's helping us do these projects. So again, when we go to new cities, what do we like to do?
Really just get out in the city, right? Experience it, walk around, meet people, try to enjoy it to a certain extent, whatever we can do.
Yeah. So I got to share the story from last night.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm wearing a Barcelona hat, and yeah. So when we book trips, they're aggressively quick.
Yeah.
We make it happen, and we try to get in and out. So I'm setting up an excuse for the debacle of. So this trip came to be for Spain specifically because we're meeting a very big partner that we're partnering up and doing towers with. And then we piggyback some other meetings with architects and so on. So it was like, great. We get in the night before. Oh, what's Barcelona known for? Soccer, right? We're both huge soccer fans. Yeah. Just the love. I don't care about Barcelona as a team, right? So it's like, great. Chris, we got to book flights. We got to do this quick. Fine. Google soccer games, FC Barcelona. Oh, they're playing on this date. Great. It's this team at Barcelona. Awesome. Tickets not available. A few nights later, I try again. 2 tickets available. Like literally 100,000 seat stadium, 0 tickets, and then 2 popped up.
Yep.
I jumped on it. It was a lot of money for a sporting event.
Mm-hmm.
Bought it. StubHub. Great. We show up yesterday.
Well, don't forget, get me hyped. Okay.
Yeah.
Immediately text me screenshots. We got the tickets. We're going. Like super stoked. Just can't believe we're going to go to an FC Barcelona game in Barcelona. Like one of their top rivals as well. Like amazing.
Yeah. That's probably the saddest part. Like the total tease of that.
Totally amazing. So excited. We buy jerseys. We buy hats.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready to go.
You're really painting a picture now. Yeah.
Well, this is my feelings. This is what was coming out.
So I show up, I go to Chris's room, and I give him a brand new hat and a jersey that I bought on the airport coming in. I'm like, hey, get this ready. I'll see you in an hour. I'm like, I'm just going to go print the tickets. I go downstairs to concierge. I'm like, hey, do you mind just printing this PDF file? She's like, sure. I go, great. I'm just going to go outside and grab a coffee. Haven't slept. So I'm outside, sun's hitting me, looking over the water, sipping on a coffee. The lady comes over and she's got this face on, very nice older woman. She's like, excuse me, sir, your tickets. And I go, oh, thank you, great. She goes, I have bad news for you. I'm like, okay. She goes, the game with Barcelona and Betis, it's not in Barcelona. I'm like, how? She goes, they're playing in Sevilla. I go, I know Sevilla. I go, how far is... She goes, it's an airplane ride or 10 hours driving. I'm like, oh my God. And then the minute you know it, I look at the tickets, it's all green. It's not FC Barcelona.
Yeah.
Right after the fact, I'm like, oh man, how do I break this to Chris?
Well, and to put this into perspective even more, we find this out about 3.5 hours before game time.
Yeah.
Before it's supposed to start.
Yeah. The positive is we didn't show up to the stadium. That's true.
Yeah, we did not get in the taxi and go to the stadium that was empty.
Yeah. So we said, let's make the most of it. Put on our jerseys, went downtown, found a bar.
Yeah.
Watched the last 10 minutes of the game.
Watched the game, had some drinks with some locals.
Started a fight because we were angry and went home.
It was good. I mean, it was fun. Obviously, it wasn't as good as going to the game.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It was good. You know what?
Mistakes are made.
Mistakes are made. That's fine. I own it. That was horrible. We pissed away money. So that being said, let's talk about money.
Yeah.
Good little segue into just financing, bootstrap financing, making it work, what we've done to finance our company off the ground when we started it several years ago, going through growth periods and seeking different financial markets, tools to support our growth. COVID, the pandemic, 2020, what that did to business in general, worldwide, and how we were affected. And then where we are now a few years later in the position.
Sure.
So I think first step, when we decided in New York, working out of an apartment, strategizing behind the scenes before we really launched it, it was like, all right, how are we going to finance this? And what does that mean? And early on, we developed a structure that was manageable, very international, with resources located in different countries. So we didn't have to worry about expensive rents right off the bat and a lot of employees based in the United States. We created a little network to kind of get going before we were officially live. So, talk to us a bit about just even personal finances we were throwing in and what our plan was versus, and before you even jump into that, we came from the VC backed world.
Sure.
So we were exposed to a VC investing money, what that entails, how you have to report to them, who gets the majority of the ownership. And when we started this company, we wanted to, as long as possible, be debt-free and own this business 100% between the both of us.
Right. Well, and I think it's also just acknowledging that, or realizing that the business itself, the business we were trying to create, is not typical for the industry, right? So like in terms of VC and raising capital and things like that, it's not a typical business. It would have been a harder pitch. We would have been spending all of our time working on, money pitches,
right,
rather than spending time working on developing the business. Any money we probably could have gotten would have been not worth it in the sense of a low amount for a high cost, right? We'd be giving away too much of the company and all that. So I think we knew from the start that, one, we didn't want anybody changing the direction of the company except for ourselves. So we knew we had to finance it all ourselves. And then I think the benefit we had too is, one, we're very like-minded, obviously, but we're very methodical, right? So in terms of the planning in advance, okay, we know we're going to need X amount. So in order to do that, we also know the first at least 6 to 12 months we're not going to be paying ourselves, right? So let's focus on our personal finances. Let's save up. Let's put money in the bank just in our own personal lives so we can live for free, or not live for free, but we can live without a salary. And then working together of being like, okay, as cliche as it might be, it is a relationship that you and I have, right? So let's get our joint bank account, right? Our business account. Let's start putting money into that every month. Let's start building that up before we even start the company.
Totally.
Right? Let's get as much cash reserves as we can, scrap together. This is our investment. We obviously believe in it, which is why we're taking this big chance. But let's build up whatever we can on the personal side, on the business side together, so that way when we're out and we're hitting it, we have something to start with. And then the other side of it is just, again, being like-minded and putting our pride away. I don't need to hire a person to do that. I'm just going to go get my hands dirty, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We're going to work 20 hours a week, 7 days a week for the first 6 months, so we don't have to hire people. We're going to literally work out of my garage, work out of your basement, right? Yep. So we don't have to have rent. Like, it's to be willing to take all those sacrifices in the beginning, put it all together, to save the cost and spend what little money we had at the time on the most productive, the most valuable for the business growth. I think it's just that willingness for us to do that, really.
Well, that plan of, and I believe our plan was 6 months, no salary,
right,
no expenses, travel a lot, because we were setting up our network overseas, Asia, Southeast Asia. So we're doing that. We both had young babies, new mortgages, new wives, first wives, not remarried or really just first wives, but like all that together.
Newly married,
newly married. Thank you. Great term. So we had all that and doing that. And then our business model is very custom. What we make is very custom. We're not producing X thousand units of something, putting it on the shelf and just waiting someone to purchase it. Ours is custom. And I say that because we're able to demand or request, a deposit to get orders started. So in our business model, being able to do that and get a deposit down, especially in the beginning, helped us pay, all, the molders and the, component suppliers and everything.
Right.
We invested immediately in our own factory overseas as well. So that was really helpful. But being able to get those deposits to help finance the orders was a big deal that made us cash positive from almost the first day.
Right. Well, and again, the business model, right? It's not a typical, we're going to develop a product, so we have to bring in stock. So a whole bunch of money is needed for inventory before we even have the first sale, right? We were able to spend the money rather than building inventory and product development. We're able to spend the money on business development, getting our factory set up, traveling around, meeting clients, right? We were able to prioritize that in order to get the sales before we even had to make the product itself.
Yes.
Which, in hindsight, made it maybe not easier, but made it better to do with less money up front.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were able to take savings, and then we start growing, right? Years go by, the orders get bigger, the financial demands get bigger, the stress grows, right? Because any business, it's a cash flow game.
Yep.
So we start getting this, we're still getting the deposits, we're growing, and our savings that was invested can only take you so far, right? Then we start looking to the market while maintaining our ownership of the company. And it's like, okay, what can we tap into? Any commercial bank, especially when you're a startup at the time, they don't look at you, right? Like line of credits are very low. Any type of other financial tools are basically non-existent for smaller startups. So that wasn't really an option. Then you start going to the secondary market and you're looking for, the loans, lines of credits from other parties where, the interest rates are well into the double digits.
Right.
And you're like, you don't want to do that. But then we start doing that, right? We're talking early on in our development and, you start building a credit, the rate gets better and better. So that was a really good tool for us. And it doesn't matter what your credit is, great or poor, there's always, especially in the United States, right? From our experience, there's always an institution that will loan you money as a line of credit. Doesn't mean it's great terms. There was options where they're in the 20+%, crazy. But it's also a start to build your credit especially with that institution. So that really helped us from that. And then you're going to say something on that, but then there was the client backed orders, and we could talk about that as well.
Yeah, and I think just related to like building the credit in the financial institutions and things like that too, it's best to do it. And we had, I mean, honestly, it was mostly you, right? Like have the much stronger business background, but for us to have that vision or whatever you want to call it, to do that actually when times are good, right? Because any business, obviously nobody could have predicted the pandemic specifically, but like any business has its ups and downs. Everything's going to come, it's going to go. Not everything is going to be perfect all the time forever, right? So just for us to have that wherewithal to be like, okay, we know this is a very small loan. We don't even really need the money right now. We know the interest rate is too high, but let's start working with these guys. Let's start taking out multiple small loans, paying them off. Take it out, pay it off. Take it out, pay it off. It keeps getting a little better. The interest rate gets a little lower, right? We get a little bit more cash flow, a little bit less on the interest rate. To do that, right? And then leading up to ultimately when we started to need things like that during the pandemic, we were fortunate enough to at that point already have 2 years of history of loans and payments and loans and payments.
Millions of dollars that we were just taking and paying just to build that.
Just little short-term loans, 6-month loans, 9-month loans, 3-month loans, even I think we did a couple of 3 months. But that allowed us to build up that credit, build up that reputation with the bank, and be ready for when we actually needed it.
Yeah, and simultaneously when we didn't need it and we were taking them out, we were also doing that on the commercial side of it.
Right.
The Wells Fargos, the Citigroup, all these banks, right, we were banking with. And whatever we had, we would just exhaust that and then pay it back very quickly. And we kept doing that. And that was incremental, but not at the pace of the other one. So the pandemic hits, and going into it, right, it was like a storm as well. The 80-20 rule, the majority of our business was coming from, very few clients. Right. Very dangerous in any type of business to operate like that. But as a startup growing, and then we land this major account, and there's a lot of money thrown at this account, all our resources went there to service the heck out of it. Right? So it's kind of hard. You can't stop that. And it happened. We have this account going into the pandemic. They implode.
Right.
That's all our business. And then the world shuts down. Not a great place to be.
Right.
We've learned a lot since the pandemic, but the main thing was, even though we knew this going into it, we need to diversify. We need to have micro orders clients in multiple markets, right? And 3 years later, that's where we're at right now. We're in different industries: retail, restaurant, hospitality, industrial. We're selling through distribution, through ECs, through different partners, where we fragmented it to be able to do that. So if one segment of that, shit hits the fan, or a couple, well, guess what? We still have these that can pay the bills and keep things going. So going into the pandemic, we were already set up to have a negative year, but we were able to come out stronger. And then we were tapping in now to the third-party loans that we needed.
Sure.
So it was a good position to be in. And then coming out of that, just having the makeup of our client base diversified really put us back in a position where we're in a much stronger financial position to be able to grow, to open up offices in Europe, Asia, Latin America,
right.
Canada coming up.
Well, I mean, it's also important to identify client diversification geographically as well, right? Because even on a different scale, we're getting ready to do some stuff in Eastern Europe, and then all of a sudden the war in the Ukraine breaks out. Yeah. Everything gets put on hold, right?
Pipeline gone.
Right. But if we were only focused on Europe and Eastern Europe specifically, we wouldn't have any business, right? So we have clients in Europe, we have clients in South America, Southeast Asia, clients in the Middle East, obviously US, North America, Canada, Mexico. But having that geographical diversification as well, not just industry market diversification, helps from that balancing.
Yeah.
Right. So, again, hopefully there's no, knock on wood, we don't have any major things coming up, but we're in a recession right now. maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's not, yet to be seen. But if there is a bubble and the bubble's in Canada, right, we still have business elsewhere. If the bubble's in South America, we still have business elsewhere. So
yeah, and doing that, there's pros and cons, and we work through it every day. But like being so diversified, you could argue many times you're not laser focused on a specific market and maximizing as much as you can.
Sure.
That's a trade-off. But on the other side of it, our teams are truly international. Our manufacturing is in several countries. So it makes sense for us to do that. And there's no market, if we were just focused in the United States and there was an opportunity to chase, if you don't have that experience, it's scary. Like, who wants to go to country X and try to bring it, and you don't know the laws, and you're going to get screwed, and you're not going to get paid.
Right.
It's second nature. Like, we know, the 5 channels that need to take place. We have our own model. We know the people that we need in that market to support us. It's just like shipping to another state for us. That's how comfortable it is.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like you said, it has its challenges. There's a lot more on the operation side, a lot more you have to get set up. Even if it's not physically launching an office like we did in Europe, like, you still have to get actually established with the governments to properly do business there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot on the accounting side. Like, again, the accountants that we have now and the stuff, we're such a small company, but we have international tax law accountants, and it's crazy the amount of stuff that we've had to research and learn and hire the right people, the right support as accountants and attorneys and things like that. But
our accountant fired us in the most nice way, right? Like, officially great for in the States, but they're like, this has expanded too much,
right,
that we can't support you. So it's like, are you breaking up with us?
Right.
We are, but we don't want to, but we can't handle it. So like, that's the situation we're in, where we now are working with an international firm that can handle European tax law, Canadian, US, China, all these countries, which is exciting at the same time as well.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, again, talking about cash flow, bringing it back to cash flow, honestly, you see some of the bills that are coming in from the attorneys and the accountants, and you're like, oh my God, like, how much money are we spending on this? But then you realize what they're actually doing and what they're setting us up for, and you start getting the business, and it's 100% worth it, right? It's unbelievable how valuable those resources are for us.
Yeah, the right resources, because you can burn through a lot and you're not getting anything done.
Sure.
And the other thing, since this one is talking just about financing in general, from a startup to, a company transitioning into major growth, where we are, is ownership, partnership, whether it's in your personal household or as business partners. If you're not on the same page, then you're already doomed, right? So you and I, we're going through major growth right now, and we don't even talk about buying new cars, fancy this, that. Like, we're on the same page in, hey, we have a couple extra dollars. What are we doing? You know what? Let's look at this market. Why don't we try to double down, invest here, because this will yield more sales, more results in that market. And we've always done that, just reinvesting into the business, reinvesting into our people, finding the right resources, getting support for key members on our team as well, and just really creating that. The rest will come down the road, but we've been on the same page. And then the other thing, during the worst financial times, you and I have always been on the same page on, hey, this is what we should do for this market. This is what we need to do with these dollars that we have. And we've always shared the same process. If we owe a vendor X or a partner or whatever, we will always pay before we think about ourselves. We hate debt.
Right.
So it's really key to align, and you can think you're aligning. So to the listeners, if you're deciding to go into business with a partner, with a new partner, with a friend, a childhood friend, everything is beautiful and rosy going into it.
Sure.
Right? When you're actually in the storm, that's when you truly see your partner together, and how do they address situations. Because when everything is perfect and flowing, then of course it's easy. You don't spot cracks at that.
Right. Well, I think ultimately it comes down to truly believing in what you're doing, right? Like, never once were you and I like, I don't know, but yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yep.
Right? It's like, no, this is going to work. This is a good idea. This is like, when you truly believe in it, it again, it's not that it makes it easy, but that it's an easy decision of, we have a little bit of cash. Should I just put it in my pocket and go to the casino or whatever? Or should we reinvest? Because if we reinvest it, oh man, if we open up over here, we open this office over here, we focus on this area, maybe this can blow up and be another $1 million account. Maybe this could, make our production facilities even more efficient and reduce our costs. Maybe this, hire over here is going to free up more time, so then we can focus our attention over here. It's truly believing in what you're doing and having a partner, especially when you're going into a partnership, right? It's even harder, but when you have full trust in a partner and both of you have that same vision, that same belief in what you're doing, it does actually make it easy to an extent to make those decisions, at least.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Just being on the same, and I don't think you could teach that. You're going to learn through action on, hey, is this really a good partnership?
Right.
And talking about money right now, knowing we've been through the worst,
right?
Where, if you're talking in marriage terms, a lot of marriages fail because of finances.
Sure.
Right. Our partnership, we've had ups, downs, and we got stronger. We had a strategy. And like you said, we always knew this is going to work.
Right.
Like, if you question that, then it's doomed.
Right.
Then you should fold it in. Right. But if hey, we will get there, but it's not a straight path.
Sure. Well, yeah, not a straight path. And that also means, having the willingness to pivot, right? So even though you believe in what you're doing, you may test the market in a certain way and realize, okay, this isn't quite working. Maybe we need to adjust it a little bit, right? And then that's going to make it even better. So you do have to have that evaluation stage, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
And you have to have that often, right? Should always be reanalyzing, is this working? Is it not? Is there a certain area that is working better than others? Do we put more attention there? You really have to be extremely honest in your evaluation of what you're doing. But like you said, it really comes down to having that same vision, the like-mindedness, and just sort of the willingness and belief that it's going to work. You just got to work towards it.
Absolutely. So to close this out, and again, it's always good hear a lot of, some information, give us some advice, because people are going through it. Everyone has different advice, but to kind of summarize what we've done, aside from having incredible partners, because none of this is possible if you don't have the right partners who believe in you, who support you, right? We're able to do that. But if you're starting out, obviously bootstrap, can you get loans? Right. Can you invest from your own? Again, family, we've stayed pretty true to, we're not going to ask early on money from parents, spouses, whatever, because now it's just that much more stress. It's easier to go out to an institution. So the first thing we did, we started using loans from third party just to build our credit reputation with them. So that's a good strategy. With your financial institution, commercial banks, it's a slower process, but utilize any lines of credit, pay it off. Even if you don't need it, just take it, pay it off, build your reputation there. And simultaneously, if you are really good at what you do, make sure you have partnerships with your clients. Right. You could sit there and say, hey, you know what? We could give a discount of X if you paid up front, or a majority of the PO, or what can we do? Or, hey, if you finance this PO, we can look at other stuff for future orders. And 95% of our clients that we had those conversations with early on, and even now, are on board, because if it can save them money and it helps you with cash flow, and you can reinvest and bring in products and ship multiple containers to different locations, everyone wins. But you got to have that conversation, and you got to bring value. You're not just asking for money. You got to bring value to the person you're presenting it, so it makes sense for them, because we're all business people here.
Exactly. Well, and again, doing all of that stuff when you don't even think you need it, or you may not even realize you need it, right? Because at some point you will actually need help, especially financially, right? At some point you will need help. at some point, cash flow is going to line up where your bank account's empty because you're waiting on payments, right? It doesn't even mean you have a bad business. It's just you're waiting on payments. People are late. You owe money to somebody else and you just don't have the money to cover it, right? At some point, you're going to need those services, whether it be loans or discounts. So you want to do that when everything's going well.
Yes.
You want to do that so, one, you're used to the process, because a lot of times these new processes, they're pretty intimidating, right? When you're first getting into it. Oh, I don't know, that interest rate seems way too high, right? But you got to do it, get used to it, one, for your own mentality, but two, do it in times when you're not desperate, because there could very well be times when you're desperate. And then if you're out there asking for money in desperation, that shows, and you'll never get it.
There's zero options.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it always be researching how you can raise money, whatever that means. Loans, lines of credit, discounts, cash flow.
Yep.
You know, always be focused on that, and really try to do that almost even more when you don't need it than when you do. So that way, when you get to that point, which is almost inevitable if you stay open long enough, at some point you're going to get into financial troubles. You know what to do. The process is made. You have the confidence in it. You're not desperate, and you have the resources available.
Absolutely. I think that's the overall message, is just prepare for the inevitable cash flow challenges that you will face.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
So I think that was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Here in Barcelona. Shirts are on sale for $19.99.
Yes.
All proceeds go to Chris's FC Barcelona attempt to get back here and go to a game.
Excited. I think it was all proceeds go to paying ourselves back for the tickets that we lost.
Yeah. This is good. So let's rock.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. Please hit the subscribe and like button and follow me on all the main podcast streaming channels. Also, please share your comments when you can. I appreciate your help in expanding this network to a worldwide audience. Until next time, stay invigorated.